Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's good to see you all. I'm going to stand on my tippy toes. Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Citrus County. My name is Vicki Iozia. I'm proud to be co-president, and you're going to have a great presentation today. Let me tell you why. What we just went through, trying to get stuff set up, and did these women panic? They did not. Did I? Yeah. Yes, I did. So, welcome everybody. Please mute or turn off your cell phones and Apple Watches. I don't have mine today, so I don't have to turn it off. This meeting is being recorded. It will be on YouTube. You'll have the link with the newsletter, and it will also have the link on the website. Please stand if you can for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And let's have a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. You should all have a reminder. If you have a pen, I want you to put another event on here because literally it was arranged yesterday, so it wasn't printed on here. We are going to have a field trip. Road trip, exactly. Well, not that far, not a road trip, really. We have arranged for a tour of the supervisor of elections, so you can see how things are done and how secure our vote is. Mo Baird and her staff are going to give us a presentation and walk us through the rooms that they use. It is on February 24th, which is a Tuesday, from 9 to 11. Where? At the Supervisor of Elections in Crystal River in Meadowcrest. Now we have a maximum number of people. So if you want to go, our lovely Peg and Deborah back there have a sign-up sheet. Would it be easier if we passed it around? Or you can sign up after you leave. We have a maximum of 35 people. So if the 36 wants to come, too bad, so sad. So you got that February 24th, 9 to 11 at the Supervisor of Elections. I will send out an email. I'll have this in the newsletter and on the web page, and so you'll have who knows where Meadowcrest is. I'll put directions. When I give directions, I always wonder what happens to people. Yes, yes. But some people don't know how to use their GPSs. All right, let's get this show on the road. And our hostess is our first vice president, our education and gun safety chair, and is also a co-chair for the Speakers Bureau for the Florida League of Women Voters. You know how they say when you want something done, give it to somebody who's busy? Rosemary Mills is very busy, but she always has time to do the important things. So here you go, Rosemary.
What a nice introduction. Vicki has coached me to stay very close. So good morning, everyone. And thank you for making the trip. And it's nice to see so many. I'm really honored to introduce today's discussion because it's a topic that's near and dear, not just to me, but to, I think, all of us, and it certainly is a league priority. Our presenters are both from Families for Strong Public Schools, Damaris Allen, did I say it right, Damaris? And Ami-Marie Granger Welch, and I'll introduce them a little more in a minute. What is Families for Strong Public Schools? A nonpartisan, nonprofit organization dedicated to putting the students first and ensuring that our public schools remain the kind of environments where all children can learn, grow, and thrive. The organization actively advocates for fully funding our public schools and standing up for our 2.8 million public school students. I will tell you, as an educator and a member of the State Education Action Team, Families for Strong Public Schools is my go-to place for information. These ladies are on top of it. So what they're going to talk about today, I'll just go through this quickly. School options, the neighborhood schools, the public charter schools, and the for-profit charter schools, the scholarships that parents can use for private schools or homeschooling. What is the role of a public school? Why do over 70% of Florida parents still choose it? Because you hear, oh, public schools going away. No, it's still what our families want the most. They'll explain the funding in a brief way, not just for our public schools, but also how it impacts, how the funding changes over the years have impacted our research. They're going to look a little bit about some legislation and some current laws. For example, the one that allows for-profit charter schools to relocate into public schools free of charge. Hasn't happened here yet, but it could, unless that's changed. A little more about our presenters. Ami-Marie Granger Welch she's a dedicated public education advocate. She's got over a decade of experience in grassroots organizing, legislative engagement, nonprofit leadership. As the Deputy Director of Families for Strong Public Schools, she leads the agendas and the efforts to advance these pro-student policies and to get communities supporting the work. She believes every child deserves access to a high-quality, fully funded education, regardless of their zip code. And she's had roles that shaped her advocacy in local and state PTA, and she's a strong voice in education policy. So thank you, Ami-Marie. And with her is Damaris Allen, who's the Executive Director of Families for Strong Public Schools. Now, these ladies both came from the Tampa area, right? And just to give you an idea of the service they offer to our public schools, they're heading to Tallahassee this afternoon because the legislative session began. So they're out there. And Damaris has an interesting story. She's a product of Hillsborough Public Schools. She's a mother of a Hillsborough graduate and a student. How did she get started? She began her advocacy when she went to enroll her oldest in kindergarten, and she found out most of her neighbors weren't sending their children to public school. They were going to other places. So instead of pulling her child out of their school, she decided to focus her efforts on working with parents, teachers, administrators to improve that school. And today, this local elementary school is one of the most sought after schools in the district. So that's a good advocacy story. So she's also number one. Yay! See what community involvement can do. So she's also had many other roles. I'll go quick. President of the PTA, chair of the School Board Citizens Advisory Committee. You all know about the SACs, Florida PTA legislation. She's an advocate herself, or an educator herself. She's worked with children, youth, and families in the United Methodist Church at Florida Southern College. She wants to help parents discover the power of their voice and using that voice to create the schools that we all want for our kids. Her advocacy has taught her never to underestimate the power of the collective voice to transform education. I'm just going to go quickly. So we're going to let them do their presentation. You'll have time for questions and answers. And then after their presentation, questions and answers, I don't know if you'll stay for the rest of the meeting, but we will have some announcements, local announcements. I can't thank you enough for making the drive. And at that, we'll let you have the floor.
Thank you. Oh, I guess I'm up first. There. Thank you so much for having us. We are always happy to make the drive, to join a Zoom, to do anything like that, because our kids are so important. Whether you have kids in public school now or you're just a community member, it's vitally important.
You won't be able to see me. Darn it.
Here, I'll be your stand. I'll be your stand.
I can't see
She's
that.
she's cheating and reading her notes.
Okay. For full transparency, we work statewide, obviously. I personally do a lot of Zoom presentations, so being in front of people, it's going to be totally different for me. So I usually have notes to go by. So here we go. I thank you guys for having us. I'm super excited to be here. We're going to talk about public schools, why they matter here in Florida. For full transparency, I actually made this entire presentation around this brochure, which you have in the back. So
Everybody is welcome to take
Yeah.
one. If you don't have one, you need one now.
it's
Okay.
updated, brand new. It's the brand new update. So the presentation matches this. So if you are out, I'm happy to share this presentation with you, and you can utilize it and my notes if you would like. So we're gonna talk about what makes our public schools unique in our state, in our Constitution, how Florida school choice landscape actually works, how funding and oversight differ between our district schools, our charter schools, and our private voucher schools. And you'll see that a strong public schools are essential to the democracy in a strong Florida. You can hold it. Wednesdays is the day I usually wear a mic, so this is good. All right. What that one? Oh, it's that one.
We also need, here, hold this. Is this
We're
the
gonna make
clicker?
this work. Yeah.
While they're
Okay.
getting ready, can I just interrupt? I forgot to introduce two representatives
Yes,
of
of
our
course.
school district. School board member Sandy Cowles, she's a member of our league, and Administrator Derek Bittner, who's had so many titles here. What would you say is your role now? What's your title?
Let me just-
Community relations.
Okay, but I know from experience, Derek has been everywhere. I mean, he does it all, and he's a very good resource. Sorry for forgetting.
A lot of cords back here. Thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate it. So let's start with the foundation. So Florida's public schools are the only education system that's actually guaranteed in our state constitution. It's a fundamental value. You want to see me, and I'm really short. I'm sorry. I was super excited. You both were like at least similar in size. So it's like I'm not going to have to be reaching up, but I'm still hidden. So our state constitution requires us to have a uniform, efficient, safe, and high quality public education for our kids. No other school type, not charters, private voucher schools, carry these constitutional obligations. So when we're talking about public schools, we're talking about one option among many, but we're talking about the only system that's required to build and maintain standards for our kids. All right. So Florida funds a whole menu of education options. Here's your menu, right? We've got district neighborhood schools, our traditional public schools. We've got our district maintenance schools, which are also traditional public schools. We've got charter schools, which claim to be public schools. We have virtual schools, and which can be a traditional public school if it's through our district. And then we have our voucher ESA funded private schools, our homeschooling and tutoring options, and those are all funded by our state. So this slide kind of summarizes a really important comparison. So when you line up the requirements side by side, using the chart from the league, school choice for sure, only district public schools must virtually meet all of these states' expectations. So they must follow the state curriculum standards. They must employ certified teachers and administrators. They're governed by elected school boards, not private boards. We'll go through each one here in a second. They're subject to state academic oversight. And the building have to have hurricane safety codes. Others don't. So that's an important thing, especially we just went through hurricane season and did not have a bad one, but last year we know we did, right? And they must accept all students, provide transportation, publish discipline policies. They have to be very transparent, right? They have to be everything that we need them to be. They have to accept every child. And our charter and private voucher schools are not required to meet many of these protections for our kiddos. So in terms of accountability, transparency, district public schools carry far more obligations to our students and our taxpayers and the community than any other option. So we're going to zoom in on the funding and oversight for our district public schools because that is the one that has the most, right? So they're fully accountable to our taxpayers. Their budgets and spending of the public record, you can see it all through public record. You can see how money is used at the school and district level. They go through audits from the state consistently
And internally.
Frequently. They're required to serve every single student who shows up at their door, regardless of their disability, behavior history, gender identity, income, or test scores. And they're bound by state curriculum standards. Like I said, safety codes, facility requirements, all the building safety rules have to be followed. So they also have that oversight we're talking about. We're electing people we want to represent us and make decisions for our community through a vote. They're not appointed by anybody like the state. So it adds that academic oversight, that financial accountability. So this is what it looks like when public dollars are matched with public responsibility. Charter schools. Now they operate a little bit differently, right? They receive our public dollars, but they're governed by private, unelected boards. That means families and taxpayers don't have the same direct say they do with elected school boards. And charters are not required to meet all staffing, safety, or program standards that apply to our district schools. In the league's comparison chart, their financial oversight is rated W for weak. That tells you something right there. So they can limit enrollment or capacity, which means they don't have to take every student who wants to attend that school. And they're also not required to provide any transportation or full extracurriculars, arts programming, things like that. And their facilities are not held to the same hurricane and safety standards. So that wouldn't be your local shelter if it's a charter school. So while charters are publicly funded, they're not held to the same level of transparency and accountability.
And I would add, some will say, well, school boards decide whether charters come into a district or not, but they're not the only ones who make that decision, whether a school board, that responsibility has been a little bit taken away from them by the state. There is a state body that can accept charter schools or can approve charter schools. And then also some of our colleges and universities can also approve charter schools. Also, and we've had this experience in Hillsborough where we have decided this charter school isn't meeting the needs of our students. They aren't providing services like they should. They weren't providing services for students with disabilities, services for gifted students and things like that. So we decided our elected school board decided not to renew their contract. And the state came in and said, you have to renew their contract. So it's really important to recognize that while in theory, our elected school board should have the power to make those decisions locally because they know their community best. That isn't what's happening because the state, and by the state, I mean the legislature and the Department of Education, the State Board of Education, are taking away some of that power.
Thank you. Voucher funded. Okay, so voucher funded private schools. So they're the least regulated of all, which we probably all know, but let's get into how unregulated are they. So they receive our taxpayer money. through our vouchers and education savings accounts. They don't have to follow the state curriculum or use certified teachers. There's no requirement for state testing. So families and taxpayers may not have comparable information about their outcomes, their student outcomes. And there's no public financial reporting. So even though these are public dollars, taxpayer funds, we have no idea how they're actually being spent. They can reject students. The school chooses to allow them to come, right? So they can reject them based on disability, identity, academic level, or behavior. And they're not required to meet or provide ESE services, transportation, or to meet those same facility standards. So they're still getting taxpayer dollars, just like the public schools, just like the charter schools, but they have even less. So we're getting worse as it goes. Wow. Okay. You see the trend. So you put it all together, it really tells a clear story about why public schools matter. So public schools are the only system designed to serve all of our children, not just some of our kids. Protect our taxpayer dollars through full transparency and public reporting. Equitable access to programs, arts, music, PE, all of that. And then having that advanced coursework. I know we had the big AP fight last year that we won, yay. But that is all in our public schools, special education, all of that. So that's all in our public schools, and that's an important piece. So it also upholds the constitutional standards that we saw earlier, a system that's uniform, efficient, safe, secure, and high quality. And we know most of the kids in Florida go to public school or choose a public school option. If you look at any data, it shows you, no matter how they manipulate and what it looks like, when you look at it and you pull it out, it's usually a public school option.
And on that point, and I'll move to bills in a second. And on that point, when we saw the expansion to universal vouchers, the reason we saw it balloon was not because more kids were choosing to leave our public schools. More kids who were in private schools already were able to be funded. So these weren't students that chose to leave. Prior to expanding to a universal voucher or universal scholarship program, you had to step foot on a public school campus. Your kid had to try public school first before switching over to a school, which helped us to have a good, accurate idea of what was driving that decision. So now we're funding students who would never have stepped foot in public schools. And that's largely because the income was capped. I'm going to pause here to see if there's any questions before I start talking about bills. And I will tell you, in the bills, I am going to address the 30,000 voucher students that are missing on any given day. So
what did you say about capped income? What was that?
Oh, so vouchers have been in place since about 1998. We have a good timeline if you want some idea of that. It really started with tax credit vouchers, students with disabilities, McKay and Gardner, and then they were rolled into one. There was an expansion where it allowed students who were being bullied. This is my favorite. They allowed students who were being bullied to tell at public schools, to tell the schools they were being bullied, to pull the bullied student out of the public school into a private school and receive a voucher for that, which is a great analogy for how we are handling the challenges with our education system. We're not addressing the actual issues, right? Our public schools are amazing. I love our public schools, but they aren't perfect. And instead of addressing, do we need more funding? Do we need more wraparound supports? What could make this better? We're just saying, here, parents, it's all on you, and pushing it aside. And so I think it was called the Hope Scholarship, that was for bullying. Then the year before universal vouchers passed, there was a bill that would allow the gradual expansion of vouchers. So every year we didn't meet the cap. We didn't fully spend all the funding that was allotted. You were allowed to increase the income cap by 25%. So the year we went to universal vouchers, it would have been 400% of the poverty level would have qualified you for vouchers. But then we erased the income cap, which means literally millionaires and billionaires can get funded for voucher schools. We also added what was called the Personalized Education Program, or PEP students, which are homeschooled students. They are funded at the exact same rate as our traditional public school students. So now keep in mind, public schools have to keep up hurricane facilities. You have to think about safety and security. You have all of these additional category lines that the public schools have to cover that now personalized education students don't have to cover. And they have that money that if they can say, this has an educational benefit, they can get reimbursed for it. So we see things like playgrounds. I'm going to start with the least absurd. Playgrounds, Lego sets, trips to Disney. I have seen people ask about trips out of the country to help with their students.
There's entire
mastering-
Facebook groups built around homeschool travel trips that allow that are funded. So you can fund a trip.
So while our public schools are struggling, I'm speaking from a Hillsborough, like all the schools we've been to. For years we struggled before we had a tax referendum to be able to keep up with maintenance. So we had to end up paying more paying more sales tax so that we could make sure our air conditionings work properly, because we didn't have enough money to make sure that happened. And we are a rapid growth area. And so it's also hard to keep up with buildings. So we'd have to take out loans to keep up with buildings because our impact fees wouldn't cover that. So while all of those things are happening, and we have whole foundations dedicated to making sure kids have pencils and paper and like basic needs, other kids are taking trips out of the country and things like that. Now, I hear the argument that, our public school kids also get to take field trips to these fun places. Absolutely. But you know who pays for them? The parents. And you know who pays for them for students who can't afford? People's donations. That doesn't just magically appear. That doesn't come from state funding. And so that's really important. Any other questions? Sorry, I could go down a rabbit hole.
There's a reason she's the executive.
So are you saying that people who homeschool their children are getting paid?
Yes.
I mean, they have to put in for reimbursements. They can't. Now, that being said, we can't get the records. We've actually, because the way the money works in Florida, because you may have heard stories from other states, the way the money works in Florida is it goes to a private entity, a scholarship funding organization, and then it comes to the parents or the school. So if they're not subject to public records requests in the same way that if it was the state doling out this money. So we have repeatedly, along with other organizations we work with, asked for how is the money getting spent? And that's actually something they're supposed to report. And it is very difficult to get that information. So you'll see things like in Arizona, we saw they were blanket approving everything under $2,000. So they were literally buying things like diamond rings, lingerie. I mean, there was like crazy things on this list because their ESA flows directly out of their government. So they can public records request that information. So while a public school's budget is completely open to anyone, this system is not. And so it makes it really hard. So they have to explain an educational benefit, which ChatGPT helps most of them. They tell you how to do that.
Plus they have a marketplace.
Plus they have a marketplace.
So is it 8,000 a year that they're eligible for?
It depends. So it's based on where you're located, and then also students with disabilities can get additional funding, which is also, there is a whole parent discussion in that group dedicated to make sure you go to your school district to get tested to see if there's any opportunity for additional funding.
And then second question, did I understand you correctly say to get that amount, whatever it is,
they have to submit reimbursement,
Mhm.
they don't get. And, wow, I thought,
Or they can buy things through the marketplace. There's a marketplace, but the marketplace often, they will complain that there's a markup and it's like, instead of buying $15 headphones, you have to buy $200 Bose headphones.
The marketplaces. Has anybody ever bought, like, used your points on a credit card? And you go to the marketplace, for the points, and you buy whatever. Sometimes they don't just have gift cards, they have stuff. Bose headphones is a great example, but they'd be in it if you equated the points to every dollar, because most credit cards, it's a point a dollar, maybe 2 points a dollar, whatever. But like the points are 100,000 points for these Bose. It's very similar. So it's similar type of marketplace.
oh, well, I'm sorry.
No, you're,
If I'm a parent, and I decide to do homeschool my kid. And then 2 months later, and then I submit all my requests, reimbursement requests in September and October, and then I decide to enroll in public school. Transfer to public school, I've still gotten a full amount of money if I've submitted, and the public school gets nothing for that child for that year.
But
Is that correct?
not for the year until the next count.
Yeah.
And that's the case, until the next count, there's multiple counts, so it would have to wait until the next count, which is January. Yeah, so it would, yeah, there's, until the next count. And so it's not the entire year, but it does eventually come, the money follows the child, but it lags significantly. So there's a day that they count bottoms and
Bottoms and seats.
yeah, that they count the number of students in a school. And so what you'll see sometimes at some schools, I'm not saying this is happening here. I'm not saying it's not happening here, but sometimes at some schools, you'll see an influx of students after the count date. So either charter or private schools will hold them to get the funding. And then they'll push them out and say, oh, we don't have the services we can't do the services to meet the needs of your child, and then push them back towards a public school.
And if they push them back second semester, we have to test them and we have to score them as ours.
Yes, thank you. Yes. So if they push them back second semester, they are tested and they are scored as a public school student, even though they spent the majority of their career somewhere else, which is really, really important when we talk about co-location, school grades, funding being tied to school grades. Although even that is like a little bit of Lucy and Charlie Brown picking up the ball kind of thing with the school grades.
I have a question. I'm looking at the audience here, and I think there's only one person. Who has a child in the public schools?
There's the one person. Okay.
Grandchild.
Who has a grandchild?
Essentially.
In public school.
So
Oh,
how do we get the parents fired up so that they understand what's happening?
I think you have conversations very much like this. This is so important. That's what we do. We'll meet people in coffee shops. We'll meet people in libraries like we are here. We have done happy hours. We have done meetups in the park. Wherever people are, that's where you have those conversations. But look, the public schools are your schools too. They're not just the parent schools. They are all of our schools. And I think it's really important that it's not just parents who need to speak up. Our public schools are vital for more than just making sure that we're safe in a hurricane. Think about when you go to the doctor. Think about when you drive down the road. The vast majority of the people who are employed or work in this community have gone through public schools. And when we lose that, we really lose everything. They're really the cornerstone of our democracy. Like I love my husband. He tends to be a little grumpy sometimes, but like when you go to this is relevant for the story.
I'm totally sharing.
So, when you go to the grocery store and or anything and you check out and you actually hand them cash, which he still does. I never do, but you actually hand them cash and it doesn't allow you, like, it doesn't tell you the change. I know you know where I'm going with this. And it's, and they're like, wait, how do I make change for that job? Like, they pause for like, all of us need to be able, like that.
That's a
what-
skill.
But that's a skill, first of all. I have panic mode, so I can do math, but if you put me on the spot, I might, like, there's a reason I'm not giving an example. But like, even things like that, if we're good at it, you know, that's thanks to our public schools. Our public schools are our community goods. They're often where the center of community happens. You know, part of the reason our school was so transformed is because we focused on making it the heart of the community and it to feel like a family. Like that was literally those were the two goals. I walked into the principal's office and said, we want to do this. And that kid that started at that school is now a graduate of college. He's now a college graduate. And that school is still doing that same work, right?
Yeah.
And I think we can do that for all of our schools. Sorry, I'll get off on I'll stop my tangent.
You will. We love public schools, you know, and I do like to say, I do like to talk about how like, and you said, like, what do we do? Because they are ours. Schools don't exist in a vacuum. You know, it's not all encased in a school. Like every single piece of a public school, all the kids, all the educators, everybody who's in that school is a part of your community, and they're an important piece of your community. So I think it's an important thing to remember. Even though you don't have kids in school, I guarantee you know somebody who works for the school district. You might not even know it, but
And I want you to think, I don't want to be beaten up when the grandparents don't count. Because
they
grandparents-
absolutely count. Please go join your PTA if you have one at your grandchildren's school.
Well, and I think about like how vital the community role just is in kids. And I think when in kids' development, it starts with our public schools, but it also starts in our neighborhood. You know, like I think latchkey kids were a big thing when I was growing up, and I was one of those latchkey kids, and I would go to my grandmother's house, but she would often volunteer at the hospital. So next door was Dorothy and Clyde Jandeka, who moved here from Ohio and retired. And I would go over their house and learn how to make candy, and we'd read books and all of these things. And they'd ask me about school. They would go to my events at school. That is so important to building up communities. And one of the ways we do this is by strengthening our schools. So, any other questions? Okay.
Hit her with them.
All right.
She's
So
good.
now we're going to talk about bills to watch. So
Thank you.
session started yesterday. I'm going to do a brief how session works really quick, just so everyone's on the same page. If you already know this, I'm sorry. So session starts long before, so legislation moving starts long before session begins. A couple months, about 3 months before, committees start meeting, usually 2 weeks a month, the 3 months before. And during that time, bills can be introduced and they can start working their way through committee. Every bill, in order to make its way to the finish line, needs to have a House bill and a Senate bill, and they need to move through and then and they usually go through anywhere between 1 and 4 committees, depending on how quickly or slowly they want them to move. So they'll go between 1 and 4 committees and then end up in the House and Senate floor, and then there'll be some reconciliation between the two if they're not identical. And then that's how a bill becomes a law in Florida. Now, the last day to file bills is coming up, but that does not mean if it's not today. I should know this off the top of my head, but sorry.
Changes every year.
Even after the bill deadline is passed, bills can still come up because committee bills can happen. Bills can come out of committees. And that's where you'll see, when we're talking about education, really, really large bills. And they're usually just titled education. Those are the scariest. Those are the ones you should always be worried about. They usually have a large number. In my head, like one of the middle ones that we were watching, that was a big giant train, was 7049. That was a big charter push bill. So they're usually a large number, and they tend to move very quickly. So that's important for you to know. So a couple of bills. I mentioned that I was going to get back to the 30,000 missing students. So one of the things our legislature had talked about but didn't end up doing was giving every student a unique student ID number. Yeah, you want to take that so I can stop wiggling my hands. So one of the things that happens in our public schools is every student has a unique number, but that isn't true of students who go to a voucher school or are homeschooled. So what has happened is there were a lot of students that were double dipping. There were a lot of students who were getting the full homeschool funding. Technically, they can pay to send their students to the virtual school based on to a virtual school based on classes they were taking. But a lot of students were actually enrolling in the virtual school. A lot of students were enrolling in physical schools. And so there was an enormous amount of money that was missing, so much so that the auditor said, hey, this is a disaster. As one could imagine, because, wow, there are a lot of words on this slide.
I know.
There
There were many, many more before I
There
touched
were,
it.
that is true. So educational scholarship programs really sets out, this is a Gates bill. There is only a Senate bill right now. And this is important because remember, I said it needs a House and a Senate version to make it over the finish line. So this is an attempt to fix some of the challenges that were brought about by rushing into this universal voucher or scholarship program. And so I'm not going to read all of these things. We will send these on, but we can talk about that. Yeah, some of the changes. So what changes? A unified scholarship system, an application process, consolidation and renaming of the scholarships. Right now there's multiple. You can only apply for one. We have okay, let's see if I can do what the acronyms are. This is one of the challenges with I think Florida Empowerment Scholarship. I was looking for FES. So there's FES UA for unique abilities for students with disabilities and their siblings. They can also apply under that. FES EO, educational opportunities. And then there's the Florida Tax Credit Scholarship, which is the FTC. I don't know why it's FTC. Florida Tax Credit, sorry. I have a hard time translating sometimes. And then there's the PEP, the Personalized Education Plan. And so expanded data, so then there would be a new categorical. People get nervous when they hear this. So right now, the funding for vouchers comes out of the FEFP or the Florida Education Finance Program. This would create a new categorical. So basically a new line item that would separate out these scholarships so we could track them a little bit easier, right? One of the blocks in the House is they're concerned that if we separate this line item out, that will somehow limit the number of scholarships that our students can receive. But it doesn't, so I'm just gonna leave that right there. And so this is really important. This whole process, if you just I try to avoid social media like the plague, but when I do go on, I often go on in the social media for our scholarship programs. And this is pretty clear that parents are very, very confused about how these work, what they're allowed to do, because they're constantly asking questions. And so this will help to reduce the confusion for families, protect public dollars, increase transparency and accountability, and hopefully will prevent at least some of the fraud and misuse. It's not going to deal. They did try to narrow what personalized education program students could use their voucher on 2 years ago. Because one of the things is like paddle boards, right? Is paddle boards. So one of the things they can do is buy a paddle board. And they actually stood up in committee and was like, well, what if the kid wants to be an Olympic paddleboard? And I was like,
I'm not going to live in Florida.
okay.
Sarasota, maybe.
No, so that was the argument. They can spend it however they want. I don't care, which is fascinating because there would be a mob outside the school district if it was done like that. Next one.
Can I ask you
Yeah.
a question? Because Is your word scholarship meaning what money comes, the voucher?
Yeah,
It's the same thing, right?
Same
So
thing.
what money the private school gets is called a scholarship or a voucher.
yeah,
Is that what's going to the public school too, a scholarship or a voucher?
no, it's the direct finance. So when I say scholarship or voucher, I call them vouchers. Our state calls them scholarships.
That's what I'm
Sorry, I should clarify that. Thank
It
you.
sounds like something they earn. They don't.
Exactly.
Correct. That's why I call them a voucher.
I just wanted to go back to the one that you said there was no House bill, therefore it could not go on to become legislation. So what
Well,
will
it
have to happen?
could.
The House will adopt the Senate bill?
So the House could still file a bill, right? The other thing that could happen is this could be a committee bill. So this could be something, and this will be something we will be encouraging people to advocate on. We've been laser focused on schools of hope right now and their ability to co-locate. But this is going to be something we will be pushing out to take action on. But there are still avenues. Until we get to there's 3 weeks left in session, there's still hope, right? Like the closer we get to the end of session, the harder it is to get things through. But right now, there's still an option that it could move.
Should we?
It is moving. It moved yesterday.
Yes,
It-
absolutely. A great option would be for you to contact your House of Representatives, your member, and let them know, hey, I'd love to see a bill that looks like Gates's bill.
Okay.
Especially the Florida education ID piece.
Okay.
Oh, my.
Okay, this is what I was saying we were laser focused on. So last session, this was a bill last session that didn't make it through, and then it was put in as a part of the budget. If you remember last session, it was quite possibly the longest session in history. I don't know if that's true or not. It just felt like it. The budget was passed last minute, almost it was almost right before the deadline where they needed to pass a budget. And this piece to allow what are known as schools of hope, don't be fooled by the name, to co-locate in our public schools was pushed through. Now, basically what this did was allow a school of hope, which is one of 7 approved charter operators. Like I said, this is another example of the DOE taking away power, right? So the State Board of Education is who approves these schools of hope operators, not our local school district, the Department of Education. And the Florida State Board of Education and the Education Commissioner are all appointed positions. So none of them are elected. So what this does is if there's underused space in a school district, a school of hope operator can send a letter of intent. And some of this was done through the legislation, and most of the damage was done through a Department of Education rule. And so they can send a letter of intent to co-locate in a school with a 5-year plan to how many students they plan to bring. Because keep in mind, these schools of hope do not have students. They plan to recruit this number of students to put into this school. So this isn't a demonstrated need, right? They're not bringing in students. And they will send a letter, as you've seen in a number of school districts around the state. And within 20 days, you have 20 days to respond to this letter. The school district is required to give them contiguous space. So if in an elementary school, you have a kindergarten wing and a 5th grade wing, and very intentionally, because you think kindergartners and 5th graders shouldn't be hanging out in the hallways together, but you have a little bit of space in the 5th grade wing and a little bit of space in the kindergarten wing. You have to move all of your students so that charter school can have one space together. In addition to that, the school district is responsible for any maintenance, any repairs, and the cost associated with it. So if I have a charter school and Amy's the school district, sorry, I moved again, and Amy's the school district, I can say, I need new flooring in this. And she would have to repair it or put new flooring in. But if she didn't respond in a reasonable amount of time, I could say, not waiting for you, get the new flooring put in and submit the bill to Amy. In addition to that, you have to provide transportation if the charter school opts into transportation. Now, what's really important to know with that is they do have to pay the portion that the state pays for transportation, but transportation is an underfunded mandate, which means the state doesn't give the amount to the district that transportation costs. And so it varies. It's about 35, I don't know what it is here, percent that the state gives into that. So the school district is going to have to make up that amount. And so there's so many other things that you have to share. I could give you a laundry list of those things that are going to be coming at the cost of the school district. So what's happening here is the money is following the child to the charter school, but the expenses are not. The expenses are staying at the school district. So all of those things are coming at the expense of opportunities for our students.
And there's no way to get it back.
And there's no way to get the space back.
Is that only for failing public schools?
No. So thank you for asking that question.
Great question.
So initially, Schools of Hope were only supposed to be in what were considered opportunity zones or for chronically underperforming schools. However, the vast majority of the schools that the Schools of Hope have requested to co-locate are A and B schools.
60%.
60%
Statewide.
statewide.
Does this bill change that?
This bill, so this is the House and the Senate bill, this bill would completely repeal the language that allows those schools to co-locate. So that would take away that opportunity. And remember, this isn't a demonstrated need. This isn't like we're going to plan to use space that wasn't being used. This is really parasitic in nature. They are coming and they are draining resources from our public schools. And they can make money from this because technically, while we don't technically have for-profit charters, they can have a for-profit management, like above that, a layer removed. Yeah. So it's really, really important. This is what we see as the highest, as our organization sees as the highest, absolute highest priority this session, because this is not sustainable. Our school districts will collapse under the weight of this. Yeah. This is, and I'm not usually one who's like, oh, this is the death of public schools, but I don't see how this is sustainable. And if you want an example of how this doesn't work, I would encourage you to Google Jefferson County and the charter school takeover. They eventually left, gave it back to the district, gave it to run because they couldn't make money off of it. And we have lots of examples about how it's bad because New York City does co-location, but also I think it's important to keep in mind that New York City spends about almost 4 times as much as we do per student. So the impact is less significant when you're spending more, but even they are telling stories of overcrowded classrooms, students getting services in the hallways. So if you're going for counseling or any services like that. And there's 1,000 other things that are wrong with this, but I literally could talk about an hour on this, but I'm gonna move on unless you have any other questions or yeah.
Could you talk a little more about the charter school owners, where they come from? We hear a lot that these are corporations who actually wrote that bill.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, yes, that is our understanding. There is a paper trail in Seeking Rents. Oh gosh,
Jason Garcia.
Jason, thank you. Jason Garcia, this is why we need 2 of us. Jason Garcia wrote a great piece on investigative journalism, digging into he did public records requests on finding the records. This is, and you may have seen in a press conference that Success Academy was mentioned, which is out of New York City. Eva Moskowitz pushing this. I almost said Jeffrey Yass, but he's in Pennsylvania. Give me the guy's name. Ken Griffith. Also, in Miami-Dade,
It's rare.
Gave about $50 million to build a new charter school as well. And this goes back to my fundamental concern with how school choice is currently operating as a market, of a competitive market. When our kids are commodities to be competed over or products, what's the most important thing in the marketplace for a company? Just profit. So what happens when we allow our kids to be whims of that market, to be used as pawns in that market. The concern is that the ultimate goal, is it going to be profit? And now I'm going to leave public schools out of this because they're definitely not profiting. They're barely barely able to keep functioning with the amount of money they're getting. But that isn't always the case because everyone else doesn't have to live to the same standards as our public schools. And so it's really an unfair playing field also.
I will add.
Yeah.
I'll add, in the back, we do have more information on the campaign against this called Schools of Nope. That is our Schools of Nope. That is our tagline, is schoolsofnope.org, but it's on the table in the back and we're happy to talk about it after.
And if you go to the website, there's tons of resources on this too. Yes, you had a question.
I have a full presentation just on
There
that.
is can you go?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
And are those bills, the good ones that you're working for, are they supported? Is there bipartisan effort? Because that's all the way. I'm sorry, that's the only way.
No.
If it's one party, unfortunately, in this state, it will never get the light of day.
So I would say two things. One, that the state is feeling enormous pressure to make this better. And originally they were looking at running a fixed bill, and they have shifted to looking at changing the rule. So the State Board of Education is going to look at how the rule functions. But the bottom line is, as long as this is in legislation, our students, our schools are in jeopardy. That is going to be a concern. The members who wrote this bill are from one party. That does not mean that we haven't heard privately from members of both parties that they support this. The key is public pressure. And we saw this and this is why it's so great that Amy mentioned AP, IB, ACE, and career and technical the funding that was looking to be cut in half last session, is that wouldn't have happened without public pressure. There's no chance we would have regained that funding without public pressure. I think that was part of the reason that session kept being pushed the budget kept being pushed longer and longer and longer down the road. And so as was mentioned in we have to understand the power of our voices. Our collective voices do have power, and they do have the power to change things. I was listening to this great discussion earlier, and this had to do with AI, and it's applicable here. And it was saying that the people in power need us to believe that the future is already settled when it is deeply unsettled. Because if we believe it is settled, we will create that future for them. So if we believe we can't do this, then we're going to make sure that then it's not going to be done. But if we believe we can do this, we have a chance to change. The greatest move we can make is to refuse to accept that this idea is settled. All right.
I'll just. Right?
So, yeah, pushing that bill, and that's what we should tell our legislators.
Absolutely.
Yes.
For that bill.
Yes. And we have, like Amy said, if you go to schools we do calls every Thursday, you can join, and you don't have to call with us on Thursday. We'll send you the script and we'll tell you who to call, but we're calling the chair and the vice chair of the two first committees and saying, hear this bill, hear this bill, hear this bill. And later we can also public record request how many phone calls they received and how many they ignored to do this as well.
We also have an email campaign, and we also have there is lots of pressure in all sorts of different directions around this.
Yeah.
How do we access that? Tell it to our people.
Schoolsofnope.org. It's on the paper in the back. Schools.
Yes.
Nope.
Now, FDA,
Mhm.
Laura,
Yes. They share our resources
Yeah.
as well.
Yep.
oh,
Yeah, and we are constantly having with FEA and PTA on Monday night, we had a call with parents and teachers who were at impacted schools and how they could organize. So, the bottom line is is we need our communities to come together to fight for our schools. And it may not change overnight, but it will change if we come together, we're persistent and consistent, right? It took us, as I mentioned, first voucher was in 1998. I just graduated college, right? Like that was our first voucher. If it took us a while to walk into the woods, it's going to take us a while to walk out.
It's gonna be on.
But we have to start the journey, right? So this is another really good clarification with the voucher scholarship program. This requires schools up front to say what services they offer. And this is really important, especially for our students with disabilities. Most people don't realize this, but when a student or a family takes a voucher, you are waiving your federal protections. They do not have to provide your student services. And so it's really, really important for parents upfront to be able to say to the private school, my student has an IEP or my student has a 504. They need A, B, C, and D. Can you provide those services? And they have to, this would require them by law to share that upfront. So then it lessens the chance that after the count, they're pushed out, or it lessens the chance we know someone in Hillsborough who was at a school for 2 years with their student not getting services before they finally pushed their child out. And then she was behind and ended up back in our public schools. Yeah.
I have a question. I'm a graduate, of course, of 8 years of Catholic education, elementary all the way up through 8th grade. We also have in this county, a Catholic grade school, St. John Paul II school. We also have Seven Rivers. Okay, both excellent school. Are they eligible for scholarships, and do they have any reporting requirements?
Okay, so there's a giant list on the Department of Education's website where you can look, the DO.
I think you might know.
That you can look and see the list of schools that are eligible. My guess is yes. The schools in our area are eligible for vouchers.
So are they reimbursements or are they straight grants?
So if my child takes a voucher, basically my child goes to the Catholic church, to the Catholic school, I will sign over the money and then the money will go directly to the school. Based on my child being there.
My granddaughter goes to that St. John Paul II Catholic school. It's a good school. We wanted her to go to it, but I noticed this year they almost doubled in enrollment. And I'm thinking, where's that money coming from? And it must be these parents are getting
From your public
vouchers.
school.
Is that it?
Yeah, so it could be vouchers. The other thing we've seen, and this is really important if it hasn't happened in your area, is the private schools will raise the cost of tuition to make up for the voucher. So your parents really aren't benefiting ultimately. Or some schools don't allow parents, like if I sent my kid we looked at private options for my youngest. If I were to go to a private school, I would refuse the voucher because I want my tax dollars to go to public schools. A lot of our private schools are not allowing parents to do that, which is not allowed, but no one will speak out against it because they're concerned about retaliation. I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm saying that is happening in our area where parents want to reject the voucher. And the private school basically has said, we'll take care of it for you. You just sign it. And you have to do this to be a part of our school. Yeah.
I agree, Jeannie. Yes, they're taking the voucher money. I know of a couple families who, one of them is new to the area. They missed the deadline, but their children are receiving those voucher funds now, which again, administered through families for,
Step Up for Students or AAA.
Is the administrator, and I know you guys could talk a long time about how much money passes through their hands. But what I was going to say is, a few years ago, before even these universal vouchers were so prominent in Florida, I looked up some of the private schools in Citrus County to find out who they took and what their requirements were. And I stumbled upon one. It was a religious school, and in order to be able to attend, the family had to fill out a questionnaire. There were questions How often does the family attend church on Sundays? Is the family, can you get a recommendation from your pastor? Questions like that. Is your child involved in any community groups? Which is fine. I have no problem, whatever. I'm sure none of us do, except that now that is taxpayer funded. And there's a word for that, and that's discrimination.
Yes. And in addition to that, the vast majority of the private schools who are receiving voucher money are not accredited. Last time I checked, I think it was at 72% of them were not accredited. So, and this is where it's really, really challenging for parents because you can't make a choice if it's not you can't make a good choice if it's not an informed choice. Yeah.
So in my role, I'm at Citrusy School, so we have a full-time program. We also teach home education where we have over 2,500 registered home education. They cannot be registered home education and be receiving a PEP scholarship. So then we also have the scholarship kids. We hear these stories all the time. But yes, our private schools in the county, every one of them are accepting the scholarships. The parents are taking them. The schools have upped their tuition so that the scholarship's not even covering all of it. So they're getting additional funding on top of that. If a student in one of our public high schools wants to take an extra course on FLVS through eSchool, we're there to teach them. They don't pay a dime. Our regular home education students that are not taking a scholarship get to take free courses on FLVS because that's the district's home education platform. But if they choose a scholarship, they now pay for the same FLVS classes that they could be taking for free. They can and do buy Disney annual passes and many other things. Now they can also, do Taekwondo. Girl Scouts happens to be an allowable expense. You guys know I'm passionate about that. There's many things that make sense, but there's some things that don't. They can also buy their own workbooks or curriculum, so it offers some more choice. But I have a Girl Scout that is at Seven Rivers. She is a scholarship recipient, plus they pay the extra to cover her tuition and activities. She needed to take an extra math course to be on track with the rest of her cohort. So she wanted to take an FLVS course, free for most students, right? But she's a scholarship student. They had to pay $1,750 for one class for both, that covered both semesters, because their family took that scholarship for the private school. So there's lots of things going on, and there's more benefits to public education that people don't even realize, that you get free what these families are paying our tax dollars for already. So it's almost like it's being paid for twice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and what's interesting, just to give you a landscape, like we are by far the highest funded for homeschool families, by far. Texas pays about $2,000. That's all they get, which is different from the other. So we are by far the highest. And so you'll see an effort for families to technically move out of state, but also keep residency here. And so that also is a secondary concern is, and the fact that a federal tax credit voucher program is about to come into play will probably make it significantly more complicated for us and residency checks.
I'm still unclear about who's getting the money.
The school.
In one case, you say the voucher or the scholarship's going directly to the school.
Yes.
Not the parent. And then she's saying, oh no, their parent is going to have that, but they have to pay extra $1,000.
So
What, I mean.
So the parent gets the money, the parent gets the money in the personalized education program, and it goes to the parent. The parent, that's homeschool. Personal PEP is homeschool that takes a voucher. There are two different ones because there's I almost need a chart. So the homeschool parents who register with the district can still go in and get benefits. But the key is, the reason they can do that is because they're counting them as students. And so they're actually the school's not paying twice because they're getting the funding for the state based on the enrollment in those classes. So that's the general homeschool student. So because they're not taking any other funding out of their let's just say $10,000 because it's an easier number. Because they're not taking money, it's not $10,000. Because they're not taking any money out of that $10,000, when the school that they have registered with, so say they take it with Florida Virtual School, says this student is taking X number of classes, out of that $10,000 that they haven't drawn down from, the FLVS can take that money and apply that to that. So the homeschool students, the PEP homeschool students that are getting their $10,000, access to their $10,000, the reason they have to pay for FLVS is because they already have all that money or have access to all that money. So they're the ones that are responsible for saying FLVS, Florida Virtual School, by the way, is FLVS. FLVS, we need to give you this much money out of the $10,000 we got to cover that. The private school student, if they're going to a school that costs $15,000, they've taken their $10,000. They've given their $10,000 to the private school. They have to give another $5,000 to the private school. So if they need to take a course on FLVS, they need to come up with that additional funding for the FLVS course as well. So the money is actually following the child. It's just some things cost more. And so that's why the parents have to pay for certain things. Now, if the private school student got $10,000, but their private school only cost $8,000, by the way, this doesn't happen. But in theory, if it only cost $8,000, that other $2,000 would be available for them to buy things out of the marketplace. So they could buy a TV or buy a Disney pass or the good things, Girl Scouts, extracurriculars and things like that. Is that helpful?
No.
Oh.
I just Jeannie, correct me if I'm wrong, but the parents don't actually get the money.
No.
It is held for them in an account.
Yeah.
By
Step Up
for students.
or AAA.
The parents do.
No, it's held in the account. They still draw down from an account.
This is why so the scholarship funding organization is like another layer completely. So the state, the reason we can't get public records is because and they can't technically fund multiple public forms of education, which it would be if it was going directly from the state to the private school. It has to go through these scholarship funding organizations. So it's like a bank almost. The money kind of sits there and then they draw out of that money. And so the money will come from the scholarship funding organization to the private school, the homeschool parent, whatever's theoretically educating the child.
I'm envisioning handing you all monopoly money and saying you're going to make a game of this to make it easier. Sorry.
Okay, just on the religious part,
Yes.
this question.
Okay.
So I think you said that if you were sending your child to the religious school, you would opt out of that, giving the school voucher. But so if the tuition is $10,000, and they were eligible, you could sign over $8,000, let's say, through this scholarship. That would leave you $2,000 to pay?
No, so yes. So whatever the scholarship amount has to first, if you are going to a private school, whatever the scholarship amount has to first go to the private school. So if it maximizes it, then it's gone, and then you have to pay the additional amount.
But you said you would, so.
Per person.
Me personally, I would not take a voucher. That's what I was saying.
Choose not to sign over that 8,000, then you have to pay that.
Yes. Yeah. Or if I choose not to take it, I would just not take it. Because if I took it, it would go to Step Up and just sit in Step Up, and they would just hold on.
Draw money. They would draw interest on that money.
Organization that has that money
Yeah.
can invest that money.
Yeah, they also get 3%. Is it? They get
3%.
They get 3% of that eight, if it's
Step Up-
10,000,
Step Up-
whatever it is.
We currently have 2 scholarship granting organizations in our state, Step Up for Students and AAA scholarships. AAA scholarships is significantly smaller than Step Up, and Step Up is one of the largest nonprofits in the world. They only right now provide scholarships in Florida.
What does that tell you? Where does?
Because what is
Who's
3%
taking money?
of $5 billion a year? I just like, and then they get donations, tax deductible donations on top of that. And then with the federal voucher, they'll get to keep 10%.
It's a nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit.
And they have,
It's a processing.
they have
To process.
they have reporting responsibilities as a nonprofit.
Yes, but you don't, it's like general, like you can see the general funds in and out. You can't see like the minutia of like what they're spending, what the kids are spending money on, or the families are spending on.
But how about the administrators? Are they the ones in that step up organization that's getting 3% off the top? Is that just all administrative fees and all the administrators are going to the bank?
Remember that for-profit operator?
And not,
No, they're a nonprofit. They're still nonprofit. Yeah,
you have administrators in a nonprofit.
yes, yes,
So they're making money.
yes, they make,
They're making money. Come on.
do you have a question?
I'm not doing public math, but 3% of 5 billion is a lot.
So basically, there is a middle person
Yes,
siphoning off
yes.
a chunk of the money that should be going to the kids in the first place and manipulating whatever those funds are to the advantage of the middle
Yes.
company.
And
And
those
the
are.
goal is privatizing for public education.
Yes, all right, our work here is done. Good job.
We gotta go now. And those dollars, when we say money, I mean, I think we always need to refer to that money as our tax dollars, because that's our money as a community. And, you know, we wanted that money to educate our kids, but we really don't know if they're being educated equitably and successfully in any other situation except at our district public schools. Those are the only ones that are measurable. Those are the only ones that are held accountable.
And I think what's so frustrating about the administrative cost that comes with the scholarship granting organizations is when there's administrative costs in our school district, they directly benefit families and students. When there's administrative cost for a scholarship or a voucher funding organization, it is for literally handing out checks. That's pretty much it, right? And processing those funds. And so as a taxpayer, I think we have to ask ourselves, where do we want to prioritize our limited resources?
So isn't, was it Department of Ed or Step Up for Students who lost $47 million last year?
If you ask them, you know, like when you, I don't know how many of you had two kids. I'm an only child or had more than two kids, but you know how like, well, I would say the dog did it, right? But the dog couldn't say I did it. You know how when you kids get in trouble and they point to the other person, that's exactly what's happening with the DOE and Step Up for Students. Step Up for Students saying it's DOE and the DOE saying it's Step Up.
So what is that? I'm not familiar with that. They found they lost.
Lost track of $47 million of the.
And I don't know, but I just have $47 million laying around that I got, like, I don't know how I can't lose $10, let alone $47 million.
That's when the
Yet-
CFO is going.
Yeah. Yet let a public school district do that. Let a Hillsborough County or a Miami-Dade who has $47 million because they get $4 billion budget in Hillsborough. If we lost $47 million, could you even imagine?
We couldn't pay the bills if we lost
Couldn't pay the bills.
$47 million.
And they'd run van out of town. Like it would not be good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just had a quick question. I mean, what is your thought on the Florida's CFO or what is the?
Yeah, CFO.
CFO.
Yeah, and go.
Now he wants to go around and audit school districts. And I just wondered
It's like a waste of
what
money.
your thought might be on that. And you may have already answered the question.
I think it's an excellent distraction from where the money's actually being wasted.
yeah,
We go through audits every year.
so many
Yes.
audits.
And
That's
there's public records. And
Yeah.
I think we do three different audits.
At
in
least.
Davis County. It,
a waste of money.
It's constant, and it's the state. The state's typically like the state does audits. They're auditing constantly.
In these charter schools.
Absolutely,
Everything that public schools does is a matter of record.
absolutely.
We just had we do financials at every meeting.
Every
Yeah.
meeting, every board meeting.
They're right there. They're
Yeah.
in the agenda. You can just push the button and you have a copy yourself.
And that's where I will go to back to the vital role that public schools play and the ability to do research, like to find information, right? Like my son's got a computer science degree, and one of the things he did while he was going through school was he taught computer science and camps and after school programs and things like that. And a student was just furious, like, I hate algebra. I'm never going to use this. I don't want to do that. And first of all, he was like, you're in a computer science class. You're going to absolutely use math. But secondarily, he said to her, I don't always use everything I learned in school, but I use the tools that I use to learn those things in school. And so you need to appreciate that. And I think that's something we're losing sight of, is that it's so important that we understand, like, I can read this and I can think critically about it and I can ask questions and I know where to go and find more information that isn't going to Wikipedia or whatever, and knowing how to test or TikTok. I know how to test sources and things like that, and I think this is where public school is so, so important. And there's a whole nother rant I could do about that, but I won't.
We could keep going.
I'm way over. Sorry. I know we have talked way too long. I'm sorry.
Is anybody sorry that they talked to you?
Oh, here, I'm not a very good advanced.
So we will, here's the thing. We will share all of these.
This one's also very bad.
These,
It's the last one.
we'll share all these resources, but if you remember correctly, after Marjorie Stone, the horrible tragedy that happened at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, after advocates ensured that the firearm range was raised, there has been a consistent effort to lower it back down, and that is happening again. But the good news here is there's not a Senate companion, so let's hold on to that little hope. So
But they don't have an appetite for it.
yeah.
I think that's it.
All right,
And-
then that's
Oh,
really it.
here.
No,
I swear I can't remember what I'm doing there.
no, keep going.
Oh, charter school. Oh, this one's really bad too.
Basically,
Collaboration with the
so
other.
this is the other thing that's really concerning with this. This is a proposed bill, and then we'll really start. Sorry. So this one allows, if a school district has had consistently what is it? No. Where enrollment goes to? Yeah, where it's lowering. No, it's decreasing enrollment.
Oh.
Good grief.
Sorry.
Where if a district is consistently decreasing enrollment for declining for 3 years, then and they have extra property, which is really smart for a school district to have, right? Because everybody and their brother moves to Florida because it's sunny, especially in the winter and when it's snowing and things like that. And they want to have families here because they can play outside all year round. And so our population changes very regularly. So it's really smart to bank land because they go up in cost. This would require the school district to sell it off, not at market value, but to the highest charter bidder. So that would require them to get rid of their land, even if they're working in collaboration with their city council, their county commission, to talk about future growth plans, things like that, to get rid of that property, causing it to spend more money in the future.
So I think, the repeal of Schools of Hope as well as this one, they're both really bad.
They're both really important.
They're both really important.
Also, I will end with this. Do not be overwhelmed. I know all of this is overwhelming. It feels overwhelming, but we can make a difference. We can change the course of the future. And it's really, really important that we all come together and fight for our public schools. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sitting through the ridiculously long presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Damaris and Ami-Marie. Another round of applause. You were wonderful. I'd love to have you back.
And I hope that you're able to continue doing this throughout Florida. I think most of us are grandparents or senior citizens, but we have neighbors. We see people at the grocery store, and somehow, as league members or as league visitors, whatever, I hope we all take on this job of educating the public, because it really is our league's work to educate the public about voting and about issues that we care about, such as public education. And so that's why we wanted to have you here, knowing, as you said, how important public education is. Really glad to see that you're using this.
And at the presentation, I'm happy to share. You guys can use that in your work as well.
Okay,
I
so
can send it.
Yeah. Well, I would not send that one. I'll give you the right one. So it doesn't have the bills on the end.
all right. Well, we just so appreciate your taking time. I know it's legislative session. You have places to be, legislators to talk to, and I hope you've inspired, I think you've inspired us all to
all your
call our
reps.
legislators.
Please.
I have information for you on that. So we have a little gift for each, a small token of our, well,
We'll get you on the way.
I'll give you a snack.
yeah.
Got a long way to go.
hopefully, Yeah, I can't remember. They're taking 19. And this is something to
Oh,
cover your,
Thank
some
you
of your
so much.
expenses.
Thank you
We're
so much.
Grateful to you both, and
Anytime.
I first
Anytime.
met Damaris over League of Women Voters Education.
We are very thankful to be able to work.
Yes.
The education task.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. And I'm going to go on and share. I know you have to
Okay.
run. Drive safely.
Thank
I
you.
would, okay, thank you again.
Virtually.
Okay, virtually it is. So, thank you once again. I hope everybody has one of these. If you need more, if you know somebody, Wanda, go ahead.
My question is, does the League of Voters advocate anything, or does it have to be approved by the League of Women Voters for them to say that the League advocates for it?
Okay, the league has 4 priorities. There are a lot of issues we care about, but after study and action and member input, education is one of the top things that League of Women Voters of Florida believes in, because as the presenter said, it's foundational to democracy. You can't have a well-functioning government and society if you don't have educated people. So is it okay to speak?
To say, speak as the league when we talk about vote no for this or vote yes for that, because I have friends who are on the other side of the aisle from what I believe, and they say, well, that's why I don't think the League of Women Voters is non-participant, that they're non-political.
I see what your question is. When I call a legislator or email, I do not identify myself as a member of the league. The league does have specific talking points, so we would have to be careful of what we say. However, as the legislative session continues, I know the Education Committee continues to write, they'll send action alerts to members, and they'll tell you what kinds of things you can say. But when we advocate as individuals, we do that as individuals. If the league is going to advocate for something, it will come in that form. For example, we'll write articles for the newspaper and identify it as the league, but that language has only been approved by Vicky. And if we're speaking for the state league, we have to have it approved by the state league,
That's
which they'll, okay,
How
yes.
You should say about these couple of things that they want to tell people to vote no on. Do we just say individually?
Individually. I think that's stronger anyhow, because like you say, if we say we're calling for the league, well, as you said, your neighbors or friends think, well, who cares what they say because they're one point of view. No, all our work is after study and action. So I brought some of these. If you don't already have this information in your phone or on your computer, I probably have about 30 of them that's an old one. It has the phone number for our state senator, Ralph Masulo, our state representative, JJ Grow, and then our U.S. representative, Gus Bilirakis, and our 2 senators. If you don't have this, come and take one. I put some by the front. Really important. Yes, I think it's already in there. They put it in every time. We have also at the front area, it's in the back table right near where Dr. BJ is standing, a list of community meetings, because we as league members do believe in the importance of community involvement. Again, we go as ourselves. Take a picture. Couldn't print that many for you. We also put it's in our newsletter, so you should have it if, it was in our January. It'll be in again in February. We update that list. It's on our website too. So, okay, I wanted to tell you, Vicki, I think she's already mentioned and it's listed, our upcoming meetings. April, we'll be talking about due process with retired Judge Trish Thomas. And just to give you a heads up, 2026, we're in an election year. Remember how successful our meet and greets were in 2024? The first one, we blew away the house with so many people. We're doing it again, starting in May with school board candidates. And we'll have a speaker from the school district. June, BOCC. July, I think, is state legislator prior to the primaries. We have a list, so watch for all of those things. We do have a speakers bureau. You all belong to other organizations, churches, civic groups. Call us. We have a brand new list of things that we can talk about, and we will be prepared. This league, all the leagues will be prepared for all the election related topics. If you want to know more about it, talk to Vicki or me. So I think that and keep watching.
Mary, chair for the Secret Bureau, the other people who were doing it left, they moved. So everything is being reorganized, so it's up to the minute.
Yeah, it truly is. People were sending presentations every day, about civics 101, your voting rights, how Florida legislature works, the U.S. Constitution. Someone's working on due process. Someone's working on a presentation on immigration to give you an idea of the various things we're prepared.
And we get that
Education.
list
Oh,
in the newsletter.
this brochure, I have a colleague from the education committee working to update our presentation on understanding school choice. We have one, it's a couple years old, had to be updated. So we have a lot of resources that I just want you to be aware of. And we do have a handout, it needs to be updated, but contact Vicki or me. Okay, I'm going to give this to you. I know we're running over, but was this worth it?
Yes.
My goodness, yes.
Y'all are so great. What a great audience. Very involved, and particularly the grandparents. Do any of our board members have announcements? Oh, yes, Deborah, our lovely Deborah back here has the sign-up list for the field trip. I'll also put it in the newsletter. It'll also be on the website. See a pattern here? So you can sign on the way out. BJ. Dr. BJ Azell.
Good to see you. Hi, guys. Always great to be here. I have Narcan in my vehicle. I started to say truck, but it's being serviced. And I know some of you may have those that are about to be expired, so you want to replace them. However, if you're in a situation where you have expired Narcan, use it anyway. Better to save a life and apologize later. I think you know how to use these. This is what it looks like. But what I'm cautioning you about is there are also medications for allergies that have started using nasal spray. So be sure you know what you're looking at, okay? And then you need 2 places to be. I wanted to let you know that there was a request for a Reverend Dr. Martin King for the celebration. And as you know, in Inverness, it's always down at Valerie Theater, and we walk down to Liberty Park and so forth. Well, somewhere along the way in the communications, the request was made early enough, like in August, but not received or approved until December. So I'm not going to call it scramble, because we guys know how to do things. If you've done it once, it's like riding a bike. So on the 17th, that's on Saturday at noon, there will be a commemorative celebration of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It will open with a wonderful MC, Doug Wright. Of course, we're pledging allegiance to the flag. There will also be a mayor's address, a brief talk about Dr. King's life. At the same time, we also need to reflect on where we've been and where we're going. So I will be speaking about unity like you've never heard before. So come for just a few brief minutes to hear that. And afterwards, I went online because I got a link to the band that's going to be playing so I could qualify whether they were good or bad or indifferent. They're excellent. So come on out. So that's Saturday, January 17th, starting at noon at Liberty Park. And the pavilion will be in use, the depot and under the water tower will be in use. So look for us in the field. We will have a setup, and then maybe we won't get stuck like this next year. But please come out, because the more people that show up allows us to reinforce the fact that we are here to stay. And you know that your 3% minority African Americans are beloved in this community. So let's show them, okay? And then on Monday, January the 19th at 10 a.m. at Copeland Park, right here in Crystal River, there is a program in the covered shelter beginning at 10 a.m. And it usually doesn't go all the way until 2 p.m., but, you know, be prepared. I think it might be cool. I'm a real Floridian. I'm going to freeze my tush off, but I'm going to try and make both events. Also, food trucks are there. Don't forget that, because you can get hungry anytime. Any questions?
Can I just,
Yes.
the league will definitely have a table at Copeland Park. And
So can you tell us a little, can we have a table at Inverness?
Not only can you have a table at Inverness, you can bring a tent if you want to. And for tabling, bring your own table and chairs, and just be prepared to have a good time. And what I like to say is, listen, we don't have vendors, because you can look in the area of the depot for that. But what we do have is resources that will be distributed and information for you so you can give to other people. And one of those resources is we now have a rural health group in Citrus County that you may want to know more about.
One other thing on your agenda, the African American readings is the last Sunday in February. It's going to be at CF again. And little Tyler Jacobs has memorized the entire, he surprised us all last year. He has memorized the entire I Have a Dream speech.
We're going to be at CF or at the auditorium. We're going to be at the high school.
I said CF, it's going to be at Curtis Peterson.
There you go.
Yeah, it is where students from our high schools and our middle schools, I've got about 14 readers to hand out. And it's really a wonderful celebration of Black history. And it's an annual event. It's always the last Sunday in February. But just seeing little Tyler.
Yes, big auditorium as well. So you don't have to be concerned about where you get seating. Every seat is a good seat.
Yeah, everybody gets a good seat.
And I'm glad you mentioned there are free books usually as well. And there's tabling for that event as well.
And we have an opera singer coming too.
Oh, wow. And the opera singer is not me, although I will be doing a reading. They gave me a reading and I said, no, it doesn't even fit my personality. Can I read what I want to read? And they said, yes. So come. You're reading too? All right. So that's it for announcements. Oh, I see hands and right there.
first,
And if anyone else has an announcement, just be on deck.
While she's walking up, Wanda Brown, please stand up.
Yes. Before,
Wanda has earned a grant from the League of Women Voters National. And you wanted to say what you're doing, right?
Well, I wanted to just, I'm looking for more members, so.
Look, okay, so let's let Heather go first.
Come on,
and then
Heather.
up. Thank you, BJ. Love you, BJ.
All right. Following our school presentation, there's a few things. Our schools are all Purple Heart schools. We're a Purple Heart school district. We are an active part of the community. February 11th at the Inverness Auditorium, they are doing the Purple Heart ceremony. That is something that you don't want to miss. You want to be there by 10:30, even though it starts at 11.
and you will be moved. So bring your tissues, but excellent part to be a part of that. Our Citrus County Education Foundation, the lady mentioned there's different foundations. Our schools and our classrooms do not have enough money. That is for sure. Our Citrus County Education Foundation is huge to us. They are active in the community, getting unrestricted funds for our classrooms. The easiest way that you guys can support them, if you have social media, like, follow every single thing that you see their name in, make sure that you're liking. That helps them get more grants for our classrooms. How easy, it doesn't cost you a dime, right? But they have other events coming up. The Schoolhouse Hustle is one of their big events. There's lots of ways that you can contribute to them, and they help lots of things. Like there's already an account set up for the 2 boys that passed away this week. So please support them to support our schools, and that is going to our public school children, not to our home education students that are getting those scholarships. Okay. It is Girl Scout cookie time. Yay. We are doing pre-orders right now, but remember I told you guys that our troop is going to Washington, D.C. for the Girl Scout National Conference and the 250th birthday of the country. We are currently on the waiting list to get some appointments with some congressmen and senators. So if there's some of these things at the national level that you want attention on, please let me know, and my girls will start compiling that so that they're ready. And of course, support any girls that you see. The cookies come in the first weekend of February. They will be in front of the stores starting February 13th. My daughter will come to the next meeting with cookies in hand. Don't worry. And they also have sponsorship of capabilities starting at 50 boxes, which is $300. But any troop, any girl, businesses, individuals, that's a way that you can help. And those boxes go to active military and food pantries all over our 8-county thing. And I believe that's it. And now I hand it off. Go ahead.
What's your contact information?
For, I'll give you the school board one. It's my last name, Wolfertz, WOLFERTZ. That's Wolf like the animal, ERTZ, H at citrusschools.org. And if you're looking for Yahoo, just in case, it's HM as in Heather Marie, my last name at Yahoo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Well, what I'm here, she mentioned that the Felon Project, I'm calling it that. Our committee may change the name, who knows. We're having our first organized meeting on the 22nd at 1:30 at my UU church over in Holder. But we could use a couple more members to be in this active group. We have 4 projects that we're trying to activate. And so I don't want to go into detail on all 4 of them, but we could use a few more people just to spread out the work. Now, this grant was for getting registered voters. So we're kind of on the front end of that. We're trying to help felons figure out how to vote and help them do that in 4 different ways. And but they granted us the grant, even though, we're not just having a booth that's signing up people, which of course we can't really do that as the league anymore. So there's 4 different, one's education and one's other different things. So please come and talk to me, Wanda Brown, right after, if you'd like another thing in your life. And we're going to just pick at it. We'll get done what we get done, and we'll use the money if we use it. And of course, then if we don't get the projects done, we won't get the money. I mean, they're sending it to us, but we have to document, of course.
So grab Wanda before you leave and tell her you want to work with her.
And I got one at the last meeting, so we could use a couple more. Because 2 have decided they didn't want to do it anymore.
Any other announcements? Wow. What a great meeting. What an audience. Okay. Thank you all for coming. Let's see. When is the next meeting? Next meeting.
If I may just,
Deborah, come on up.
no, thank you. But, just remind board members who can stay behind to do our quick audit.
Oh, yes, we're doing an audit, so we'll hang around for a little while. February 11th, Tiara Alexander is going to be talking to us about the wonderful community volunteer activities that she does. So everybody stay safe and warm, and we'll see you next month. Oh, yes. Wait a minute. Hold on. Don't move. Don't move. Zoom. How many people have signed up for the Zoom tonight? Oh, gracious. If you haven't, how many people have a road that they live on that they would like to have improved? I do. Go on the website, lwvcitrus.org, and sign up for the Zoom with Steve Howard and learn about our roads. I guarantee you, you will be impressed and marvel. Tonight, 7 o'clock. In your jammies, we don't care.